right, good evening, everyone. I'll call this meeting of the Mayor and Board of Aldermen of the City of Starkville to order. This is our regular meeting, first meeting of 2020. So if you would please, we will stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by Judge Lawrence Carpenter providing us invocation, and then we'll have a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Judge Carpenter?
Let us pray. Eternal Father, we come bow down before a loving God, a giver of every good and perfect gift. God, we thank you, Master, for taking care of us through 2019 and bringing us through 2020. God, we pray for the city of Starkville. We thank you for our mayor. We thank you for our vice mayor. We thank you for our aldermen, alderwomen. We thank you for all the staff, the attorney, clerks. And God, we thank you for all the department ahead. We thank you for the sacrifice. We thank you for the men and women of God who will serve in this community. And God, we pray that you just continue to crown our head with more wisdom, knowledge, and understanding as we serve you with so other people. God, we realize that we can't do it without you. So God, let us continue to work in harmony with one another, work in love with one another, even in the midst of our differences. God, we pray that everything will be done, that you will be glorified. Now again, we thank you for the men and women who are protecting us. Amen. While we slumber and sleep, we thank you for protection of our property. We thank you for the serving of our streets, our trash, our electricity, all that you provide. And God, we'll be so careful to give you all praise, glory, and honor. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, everyone. We appreciate you being here. Happy New Year to all. Our first order of business will be approval of the official agenda with consented items. Do we have any changes to the agenda or the consented items? Do we have any changes?
Yeah, I'd like to add one item.
Vice Mayor?
I'd like to add the very last item on the agenda, under Roman numeral L, Utilities Department number 5 to consent, please.
All right, any objections to adding item number 5 under utilities to consent? All right, seeing none, it will be added. Anything further? Anyone else? All right, seeing none, I'll entertain a motion for approval of the official agenda with the consented items as modified. I have a motion from Alderman Vaughn. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Alderman, Alderman Little. Thank you. Further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries. And I will take this opportunity to read those consented items at this point in time. First, we have consideration of the minutes of the December 13th, 2019 work session of the Mayor and Board of Aldermen of the City of Starkville. And I thank you again, Vice Mayor, for handling that work session. I
You're
appreciate
welcome, Mayor.
that.
My pleasure. Thank you. Thank you. Enjoyed it.
Next time, we have the the board business, item 1, consideration of appointing Kim Moreland, who is the sole applicant to the Planning and Zoning Commission for the Ward 1 vacated term set to expire on June 30th of 2021. Item 2 is consideration of authorization to advertise for an independent consultants for Architectural Review Committee. Item 3 is request approval to authorize the Golden Triangle Planning and Development District to prepare and submit a community development block grant application to the Mississippi Development Authority on behalf of the City of Starkville for the purpose of sewer improvements to an area not currently being served, which includes the Babylon Road area. Number 4 is request approval to authorize Golden Triangle Planning and Development District to begin procurement process for engineering services for the proposed community development block grant application to the Mississippi Development Authority on behalf of the City of Starkville for the purpose of sewer improvements to an area not currently being served. Item 5 is consideration of the appointment of Freddie Parker of Pafford EMS as the EMS Administrator for the EMS District pursuant to Mississippi Code annotated Section 41-59-55 sub B. Under Airport, we have a request approval of Clearwater Consultants, Inc. to work authorization 19-01 for engineering services for the 2020 MDOT project at George M. Bryan Field and to be funded by MDOT Multimodal Grant MM-0068-0920. Under Engineering, we have request approval to purchase an asphalt truck for the Street Department from Covington Sales Equipment Company, Inc., the lowest bid in the amount of $197,600, and for the city clerk to obtain financing. Under the Fire Department, we have request permission to apply for an Assistance to Firefighters grant requiring a 15% city match of approximately $30,000 to be used in creating a regional training facility at Fire Station number 3. Under Human Resources, we have request approval of the promotions of Gregory Cochran and Sam Wilkes to the rank of Lieutenant William Daniels, Tyler Davis, and Christopher Keys to the rank of sergeant, and retain candidates from the promotion process held on December 16th and 17th, 2019, for consideration to fill any additional vacant position due to retirements, terminations, or approved additions to the fire department within a period of 6 months. Item 2 is request approval to hire Ryan Klassen, George Grandfield, and Josh Kennedy as entry-level firefighters at Station 5, and Jason O'Connor as a temporary full-time entry-level firefighter. Under Parks, we have consideration to apply for recreational trails grant program through Mississippi Department of Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks for a project of $275,000 with an approximate 50% match. Under the Police Department, we have consideration to allow Corporal Mike Walker to attend Basic and Supervisor's Evidence Management class in Tupelo, Mississippi, February 4th and 5th, 2020, at a cost of $325. Under the Utilities Department, we have request approval of the lowest and best quote from Terry Stidham Construction for the installation of a new sewer main on Russell Street in the amount of $19,987. Number 2 is consideration of an agreed order between the Mississippi Commission on Environmental Quality and the City of Starkville, Mississippi, relating to water NPDES permit number MS00366145. Item number 3 is request approval to accept the lowest and best bids received for January 1, 2020 through June 30, 2020, source of supply listing for Starkville Utilities, Electric Division, and Water and Wastewater Division. Number 4 is request authorization to advertise for bids for the sale of timber on the Ernest E. Jones wastewater treatment plant property. And number 5 is request approval from JBHM Architecture to develop plans and bid package for expansion of the Starkville Utilities Electric Operations Center to allow combining water and electric operation at one site. And that concludes the consent agenda items.
Thank you, Mayor.
My pleasure. All right, under announcements and comments, I have nothing to announce other than a Happy New Year kind of announcement to everyone. I hope their holidays were good, and we look forward to this upcoming year. So, anyone on the Board of Aldermen, Alderman Carver, I see your hand.
Yeah, I just want to congratulate the new chief and just look forward to working with you, and nothing more than that. And I'm going to say that the ceremony for your swearing in, the mayor did a wonderful job, and you did a wonderful job, and we definitely appreciate Chief Nichols and everything that he's done. So I look forward to working with you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Alderman Carver. Thank you. And all the board was there. That was a nice event. So thank you for highlighting that. Anyone else? Anyone else? All right. Well, thank you all. We have citizen comments. Now is an opportunity for citizens to come forward and make any comments. You have 3 minutes. It will be timed. And if anyone has anything they'd like to say or share with the board, now would be the time to do that. We do not necessarily respond in kind to answer questions, but we do listen and take notes. So, Mr. Turner.
Good evening to the Mayor and Board. Happy New Year. Name's Aventine Ward 7. To the mayor, to the new chief, to the fire chief, to the NACP president, Yolanda Hatt.
Thank you, Mr. Turner.
All of the housing authority, that heavy rain that we had, great rain we had, we thank the water department for helping us out. That we had a situation, we had to cut water off and try to find the leak and fix it. We want to thank for y'all pitching in, helping the housing authority out with the ring. We also thank for the sirens going off. Sunday Fullers, they worked and got everyone's attention. In about 2 more months, I'm probably gonna need me a new police shirt. This one is getting old, but in my neighborhood, it get everyone's attention. In about March, I probably need another one to start getting old, and letters getting old. But anyway, that's just some concerns.
Thank you, Mr. Turner. Anyone else wishing to make any comments to the board? Anyone else? All right, seeing none, we will move to a public hearing. We have 2 public hearings this evening. The first one is a public hearing in consideration of a conditional use 19-09 a request to allow for a duplex at 222 Yates Street in an R2 zone with a parcel number 102B-00-033. Mr. Havlin.
CU 1909, this is a conditional use request by Glenn Heath to allow for that duplex at 22 Yates Street. The property is currently zoned R2, and in order to construct a dwelling two-family, a conditional use is required. A dwelling 3 or 4 family is not permitted in an R2 zoning district. At this time, the applicant has already completed the construction of the 2 additional dwelling units on the property. The image on the left is before the renovations, the floor plan, and the image on the right is after the renovations as it currently stands. On August 19th, city staff received a report that an additional dwelling unit had been added to the house. On August 20th, staff discovered that the construction had been completed on dwelling unit number 2 and near completion on dwelling unit number 3 without permits or inspections. A stop work order was issued. The property owners were informed that the 3 dwelling units were not permitted. In order to have the 2 dwelling units on the property, a conditional use approval will be required. If the conditional use is approved, the applicant will need to apply for the appropriate permits and have the work inspected and approved by the building department. This is an image of the front of the house. Dwelling unit number 2 is on the left side of the house on the carport, and then the bottom is some interior pictures showing a kitchenette, bathroom, and a bedroom living area. This is the images of dwelling unit number 3, which is at the rear of the house, and that's the door, the entrance into the unit, the stairway that accesses. And this is kind of the after renovation floor plan, highlighting the different areas, dwelling unit 1, 2, and 3. On December 10th, 2019, the Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval of this request with 4 conditions. Create an interior door between dwelling 1 and dwelling 3. That area is indicated by the black circle with the number 1 in it between dwelling unit 1 and 3. Removal of the exterior door porch area in the north side of dwelling 3. That has the number 2 on it. Removal of all kitchen-related equipment in dwelling number 3, which is located at the bottom of the image with the number 3. And the 4th condition is the area designated as dwelling 2 and 3 shall not be used as habitable space until a building permit has been issued, inspections performed by the building department, and a certificate of occupancy has been issued. 26 property owners of record within 300 feet of the subject property are notified directly by mail the request. A public hearing was noticed in Starkville Daily News on December 16, 2019, and a sign posted on the property concurrent with the publication of the notice. Appendix A, Article 6, Section 1 of the city's Code of Ordinance provides for 5 specific criteria for conditional use approval and review. Land use compatibility. The proposed use as dwelling 2 families could be considered a compatible use with the adjacent property. The property is currently zoned R2. There is a multiplex at 204 Yates Street and an accessory dwelling at 206 Yates Street. The 2016 comprehensive plan has the area place type as traditional neighborhood existed. Sufficient site size and adequate site specifications to accommodate the proposed use. There is not adequate parking currently on the site to park the proposed use. Proper use of mitigative techniques. There are none proposed. Hazardous waste, no hazardous waste. Compliance with applicable laws and ordinances. The applicant is currently not in compliance with Chapter 26, Building and Building Regulations, or Appendix A zoning. If there are any questions.
Okay. Any questions of Mr. Havlin before I ask for the applicant to come up?
This, Mayor, this is gonna be Mr. Allen, this will be a duplex when you get through taking out the
Correct.
kitchen, makes it turns
With
into.
those conditions, number 3, by adding that door, condition number 1 makes that access from the interior of the structure. And then condition number 2 is removing that exterior door on that side. And that was a direct response to a concern at P&Z by the neighbor. That opens up directly onto his bedroom and, or his kid's room, I believe.
So they're gonna remove that.
And he was uncomfortable with the fact that that was an entrance right there. I don't think he would have the same concerns if it were on the other side of the room, just on that side.
Are there any plans that you know of from them to comply with parking regulations?
Well, this is kind of the first step in the process. The building department can't review it yet until it's actually an allowed use. So this is the first step to make it an allowed use. Normally, when you submit a building permit application, planning will look at it to verify the setbacks and the parking requirements and other zoning requirements are met. So at that time, the requirement, they would be made aware of that requirement. They would, if they're gonna have 5 bedrooms, they need to have 5 parking spaces on site.
Anything further, Alderman Beatty? Okay. Is the applicant here? Would you come forward, please, sir? Is there anything you'd like to add to what Mr. Haviland has said about the project?
No, ma'am, yeah, I'll just give you a quick rundown, then I'll be quiet. We originally did that, so my father's health is terrible. I know y'all not interested in all that, but anyway, we're gonna move my oldest daughter, grown daughter, in that dwelling 3. And then all that fell apart, and my father got very ill and had to move in with me. And at that point, we said, well, crap, what do we do with this house? So we put it on Airbnb. And just about the time we did that's when all the big Airbnb blow up started happening. And so we made a mistake, and we're trying to fix it, trying to correct it. That's the honest, I'll answer any questions anybody has, but that's all I know.
Okay, well, let's see if we have any, do we have any questions of board members of Alderman
How
Vaughn?
did we get that far without a building permit, Mr. Haviland?
If they don't tell us, it's, you know, it's up to like the inspector or the code enforcement officer to drive by and just kind of find it. So we were notified by a property owner in the area that there was something going on, and then when we went to look, that's when everything happened. And that was on, we were notified on August 19th, and then August 20th is when their, building department was actually able to go out there and look what's going on.
Mr. Allen, can you put,
Well, hang on, Alderman Vaughn, were you done?
I'm done.
Okay, Alderman Beatty?
can you go back and show the picture of the side of the house? When this is finished, will the painting and colors and stuff kind of conform to the rest of the house?
It's white now.
Okay.
That picture was taken earlier. It's painted. It's white.
What about covering the bottom around the house, around the base of it? I'm just asking a question, what all do you plan when this thing's finished?
Well, we weren't going to put underpinning, but at this point, we, I mean,
I guess even we can require them to do this, as I just asked, just trying to find out, if the structure was going to conform to the existing structure and the other adjacent structures and the way it looked, from the standpoint of the paint colors and then the underpinning, that kind of thing.
Anything else, Alderman Beatty?
That's all.
Okay, all right. Anyone else? Okay, thank you. Appreciate it. All right, I'll open this as a public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak to this matter now is the opportunity for you to do so. Anyone wishing to speak to the request for the duplex at 222 Yates Street for the conditional use? All right, seeing no one, I will close it as a public hearing, and we will go into discussion with the board. Any questions or comments from the board? Alderman Walker.
I have a couple. Mr. Haviland, it seems, and this is through the city attorney, is pointing some of this out to make sure that we're thinking about the issue appropriately. It seems that there are 2 issues. One, we have the focus on the use. Is it the land use compatible for this to be a duplex in this zone? And is the building code piece of it separate and legal? And I think the question, the answer to that is we don't know yet, right? We don't know
Right.
until what they're going to find out.
This is kind of the first step in that process to get that correct.
So what we're really looking at making a decision on tonight, if I'm correct, is we're trying to decide as a board if we're going to allow the conditional use to allow a duplex on this property.
Correct.
And you're saying, based on what you've said, with the existing footprint, the existing setbacks would meet the duplex
Yeah, there are no
requirements?
setback issues on that.
There are no setbacks, so the only outstanding real issue is going to be parking?
Parking's the only one I'm aware of now, but we haven't had a permit application, so we haven't really gotten to look at it other than just observing what's been built. So, from a zoning standpoint, I don't foresee any other issues beyond the use.
Could you pull up the conditions as presented by planning and zoning? So looking at these conditions, as if this were to be approved tonight with these conditions in place, do you believe that these 4 conditions are satisfactory in allowing the building and the planning department to ensure that this use would only function as a duplex?
Yes.
Thank you. Mayor, with that, I would move approval with the conditions as presented by planning and zoning.
All right, I have a motion from Alderman Walker for approval of the conditional use 19-09. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second from Alderman Little. All right, further discussion. I'm sorry, Vice Mayor Perkins.
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Havlin, just as a follow-up to the gentleman from 5, there's nothing that requires the bottom part of that elevated structure to have any covering at the bottom? And that-
From a
and-
planning
from a
and
sti-
zoning
yes, sir.
standpoint,
Yes, sir.
no. From a building code standpoint, maybe. I'm not as familiar with the international building, residential building code. There may be something, I remember stuff coming up in the past about closing it in somehow, but I can't speak very well to it.
I yield, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything further? Any further discussion? All right, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
No.
Okay, that was a 4-3. City Clerk, have you got the, okay, all right, motion carries. All right, item number 2, we have a public hearing consideration of conditional use 19-11, which is a request to allow for duplexes on 3 proposed lots that front east side of South Lafayette. Mr. Havlin.
Yes, CU 19-11 is a conditional use request by Jim Defoe, and it's for a duplex, and the lot address is actually 306 South Jackson Street. Just to orient you, this is Overstreet. Across is the very large house, but that lot is continuous all the way to Lafayette Street. The area in red is just the back portion of that lot that fronts Lafayette Street. The property is zoned R2, and in order to construct a dwelling 2-family, a conditional use is required for the city of Starkville permitted in conditional use chart. If the conditional use is approved, the property will need to be subdivided and new lots will front and be accessed from South Lafayette. So you can see in this image, that's the back accessory building to the house. It's over here on Jackson, and then these are the 3 new lots, and that's kind of the proposed building area within the lots. The lots are being proposed to be accessed by a one-way driveway that kind of circulates through the site, so there's not going to be individual curb cuts in front of each house. 27 property owners of record within 300 feet of subject property were notified directly by mail the request. A public hearing was noticed in Starkville Daily News on December 16th, and a sign posted on the property. Appendix A, Article 6, Section 1 of City's Code of Ordinance provides for 5 specific criteria for conditional use approval. Land use compatibility. A proposed use of dwelling 2-family could be considered compatible with adjacent property. The property is currently R2. 2016 comprehensive plan has the area place type as traditional neighborhood existing. Sufficient site size and adequate site specifications to accommodate the proposed use. The site is adequately sized to accommodate the proposed use. Proper use of mitigative techniques, none proposed. Hazardous waste, no hazardous waste. Compliance with applicable laws and ordinance. The applicant is responsible for retaining all proper permitting by the city and state and will be required to seek a certificate of occupation prior to occupying any of the dwellings. On December 10th, 2019, the Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval of the request with one condition. The applicant shall have 6 months from the time of conditional use approval to begin the subdivision process.
Okay, thank you. Any questions of Mr. Havlin before I ask the applicant to come up?
Yes.
Alderman Beatty.
Mr. Howard, show us the map of that. Is that south of the railroad track on Lafayette?
Yes, south of the railroad tracks, there was recently a duplex built here.
That's the one that's elevated?
Yep, and it's actually the same owner of that one is doing this.
And will these properties be elevated, or will these be on
I don't believe that they have the same floodplain issue as that one did. The floodplain only nicks the very top corner of this lot, but this one's like, it's completely within the floodplain. So that's the reason for the elevation of those.
Now, I can't tell, but are there any structures being removed to accommodate this?
On the survey, it doesn't show
It doesn't look like.
it doesn't show anything on there. It's just showing that one on that adjacent property. And I believe there's a fence, it's kind of a hill right here, and then there's a fence that runs along the top of the hill, and it's pretty heavily brushed.
Because it's residential property, this doesn't come on the flood water, the drainage, flood mitigation stuff that we.
I believe it actually does do the trigger. There's been some discussion about that, but because it's still so early in the process, there hasn't been any actual.
Before any
design.
final permit would be issued for the construction, we would know that this would meet that.
Correct. During the plating process, it'll go through a preliminary plating process and an infrastructure approval, site plan approval phase, and at that time, they'll go through the stormwater ordinance and design their system and then construct their system. And then once everything's inspected and approved, then they can go for final plat and start construction on the actual house.
Thank you.
Okay. Alderman Vaughn?
Mr. Kemp? Mr. Kemp, how much of this is a flood zone area?
I'm sorry.
How much of this is a flood zone area?
This area, like the planner said, is kind of up a hill, so it is not in the floodplain. The property directly across the street, to the west, I believe, has the creek that runs behind those lots, and all of those lots have some flood hazard, areas.
What gonna show, but the adjacent property won't be flooded out from this new, what gonna show them that?
Yes, sir. That's a good question. We talked about that briefly when we met with the applicant. It was probably in November-ish or something like that, before the new year. They brought in a sketch pretty similar to this, and it was just a very rough concept, and we basically talked about any of the requirements that would have to be met as if they decided to go forward with the project, because they were deciding at that time if it was a viable project for them from a due diligence standpoint. And I mentioned to them at that time that they would be required to meet the requirements of the new stormwater ordinance, which went into effect in August. And that requirement, Alderman, is the 100-year storm event. And it would also make sure that the direction of the water as it currently exists would not be altered significantly. So the majority of that water is kind of flowing from where that big house is down the hill toward the ditch that runs along Lafayette. We would not want to concentrate that water, for example, and dump it directly to the property to the south. That's just one example. We would want to try to mimic the existing flow as much as we could. And, but we would do a very, we would do a review on that to make sure that the project meets that ordinance requirement and that the 100-year storm flow after the development does not exceed the flow that it currently exists right now in an undeveloped state.
Yeah, because we have to do something because house 1, 2, and 3, and the new lot where they built on, the new apartment where they built on the stilts,
Yes, sir.
all that's still flood. So if we put that there, it ain't gonna do nothing but flood all that. So we got to be assured that these people not gonna get flooded out from a new construction.
Yes, sir, we understand, and we also know that this area is a basin that has had some issues over time, and we'll be paying close attention to that during the review.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Vaughn. Anyone else? Any other questions while Mr. Kemp is here? No? Okay. Would the applicant come up, please? Mr. Pepper, anything you'd like to add to any of this?
No, just to answer your question, we're aware of the stormwater issue there. We intend to follow the new stormwater ordinance for the property.
Right. That is certainly an area that is critical to us
Yeah.
in terms of how we are treating the stormwater.
And it's like I told everyone, we're not going to improve what's happening downstream, but we're not going to make it worse. So,
All right.
So you'll have an engineer that,
yes, we'll do underground detention on this and dump it in the, our intent will be to put it right there in the same ditch it's going in now in Lafayette.
Mr. Kim mentioned though, that concentrated, where the water's coming down, how wide is, what's the total length of that along Lafayette Street? Is it 100 feet?
Blow it up.
No, it's going to be closer to about 180, isn't it?
So most of that now is gonna be built in concrete, and if that water's channeled in, and the same amount of water comes off the hill and but goes into that ditch in a confined space, it's gonna create water problems. So that's what.
We're going to hold the water and release it at the same rate that it's released now.
You gonna concrete the parking spaces, or are those gonna be
We're
gravel?
probably going to do stone
Stone? Okay.
Yeah.
Permeable surface?
to help
Okay.
with the runoff.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to step on you, Alderman Beatty. Anything further?
No, we just, we can't have any more water issues in Lower. I agree with, Alderman Vaughn, but, that area's, kind of, we're at a point where we can't, anything else that deviates from what we're having now that would potentially create any more water issues, just gonna be tough for that part of town.
All right. Anything else? All right, anyone on this end? All right, Alderman Vaughn?
Forget what got me so concerned. I've been battling with water. Edwin and I have been battling water right there every time it rained for 10 years, and we still haven't fixed that solution yet. So when I know it's all this concrete in there, that's gonna be another problem. I really see another problem, a potential problem happening right there, because this has been battle right there for 10 years. Engineer, you know myself. I stay on you about it, but we still hadn't fixed the problem that we already got there. So what assuring me that it's gonna be fixed, it's gonna be better?
We're not saying we're going to fix the problem.
I don't want you to
No,
fix the problem,
no.
but what assuring me that
We're saying we're not gonna make it
you're not
worse.
gonna make it worse?
That's right.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, I'm
I'd
sorry,
just like
Alderman
to
Little?
say, with our new stormwater ordinance, this is what we did to help mitigate. So they're gonna follow our new ordinance and follow the guidelines, and hopefully that we were stringent enough when we set the parameters. And I don't think that we can decide here on the fly to prohibit somebody if they got it by right to build something, if they follow our current stormwater law.
Well, I'm
In my
glad they're
opinion.
doing the permeable surface. Alderman Sistrum?
And I think what we can do is make sure that when your calculations are done and we review them, that we take a really critical look at those calculations, so that it doesn't make things worse.
Mayor, we're not trying to
Alrighty.
prohibit somebody, but this is an exception. This gentleman's asking for a zoning exception to build here. I mean, so this is something that I think the discussion is warranted as to the potential effects of that water, that drainage and potential flood problems, as that's a flood-prone area. So I don't think it's out of the ordinary for us to kind of stop and ask questions as contractors.
I absolutely think the questions are appropriate. So, any others? Any others? All right. Thank you very much. All right. I have to open it as a public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak to this matter, now is the opportunity for you to come forward. And if you would, when you do, please identify yourself.
Mayor, Board of Aldermen, Alderwoman, congratulations, Chief. I'm Charles Ware. My father-in-law lives on that street. He's been there probably since around 1950. He's about 90 years old now. My concern is the water that comes off of that hill is going to have to be sloped to the west, so it's coming down on Lafayette Street. That water then channels down underneath Mr. Rob Ware's house, if you know where that is. That pipe's about that big. And it comes out down just below John Moore's house, and it comes out about that big. And my point, as pointed out by Alderman Bailey, Alderman Vaughn, as well as engineer here, is even though you retain that water underneath the concrete slab, it's got to go somewhere at some time. And the concern of the residents over there is that probably we need to take a long, hard look at this, as well as the traffic. Yes, it's bad when First Baptist lets out. It's bad at rush hour. But Lafayette is a very narrow street. Now, you're putting 6 more families over there with a concrete slab up top. And we may have to take a look at that. We may have another blackjack situation here. That's all I've got. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much.
Mayor.
Appreciate you coming forward. Let me get the public hearing part done first. Anyone else wishing to speak to it as it relates to a public hearing? Anyone? All right, I will close it as a public hearing. Now, Alderman Bailey?
Thank you, Mayor. I talked to him at Smitherman today, and he has water that's the things that happened at the boarding plant when it was developed in the area up there. It created a situation with water problems down in Green Street in South Montgomery, not South Montgomery, South Jackson, in that low area. And I don't know whether those homes that are all built on, it's not Gillespie, what's the street? Just south of the board.
Worley, you talking about?
No, Hogan Street. I don't know whether those homes that are all built close together were an exception to zoning or not, but I know that when we take places that have trees and vegetation and we strip them off and we build these houses right, close to, within 30 feet of each other, we pave everything. Everything's a building or pavement, it's going to create, unless we're careful, about what we're doing, how this stuff's engineered, it's gonna create a water issue for somebody downhill from it. And it is there. And so, I understand the concerns of the people on South Lafayette Street. And, we need to be careful and do this right.
Thank you, Alderman. Anyone further? I need a motion if someone is interested in making one. Alderman Sistrum.
I have a quick question for the city engineer. The idea is that the water from a 100-year storm will be detained below, underground, on site, and then released at a rate that our system can handle that flow without contributing to the water problems downhill. Are you comfortable that can be done?
Just a small.
Tweak what? Okay.
Just a small thing. It's not, the rate it will be released will be equal to or less than the existing rate that currently exists now in its vegetated, undeveloped state.
Okay.
So to Mr. Pepper's earlier point,
Okay.
they are not going to make the situation worse.
Right,
When they submit
right.
the calculations, they've done a bunch of these underground systems, and they always provide good information, and we will check those to make sure they're accurate, and we concur with those with the new ordinance. But that is the intent, that it would not change the flow amount based on its current condition.
So in a storm event that creates problem downhill now, there would continue to be a downhill problem. It just would not be worse than it
Would not
currently
be
is.
worse. That's right.
And it won't be concentrated in one area that would make it.
As much as possible, we are going to mimic the existing flow pattern. And I think that that's really important when you talk about concentrating flows in already, in areas that are already kind of critical or kind of overburdened.
Right.
That we need to try to not make it worse. And you can make it worse by just moving water from one area to the other, even if you're keeping the same flow rate the same. So that's something we will definitely be looking at.
Alderman
I
Walker.
have a couple questions. So again, what we're looking at tonight, to make sure we're all clear, is this would be not approval of a site plan, but this is approval of a conditional use to allow duplex units on these pieces of property. Is that correct?
Correct.
Couple questions I have at looking at the plan before I make my decision on that would be, you stated that all the lots meet the setback requirements and all the issues related to parking as presented?
Yeah, I mean, this is really conceptual at this stage. You
Yep.
know, we don't know how many bedrooms are in the units, all that. That would all be verified at a later point. But conceptually, even if they did the subdividing of these lots as proposed, they could be single-family homes, large single-family homes in each one that are the same size as this one.
So what is the front setback requirement?
I believe it's 25 feet in that area.
Is that what they're, I can't read that dimension, is that what they're showing about that?
Yes.
It appears on, again, I'm just asking questions, it appears that on the plan, would there be proposed or a need, Mr. Ware, for a dumpster at this location? If it's duplexes, or would that be handled at Lafayette Street? Yes, sir. And so, Mr. City Planner, I mean, it looks like, I would say that little hammerhead looks to me that that's a pad in preparation for a dumpster pad. Or is that just an additional
I
parking
think that
space?
was just a pull straight in spot, like, yeah, there was a discussion with the dumpster.
I would say if this project is approved, I think that I agree with everyone that stormwater is critically important, but site planning is pretty critical on this. And I think just looking at this, I think there's some fairly significant issues that are safety related and proximity of hard or stone surfaces up against the house. I don't think that's a very aesthetic, but I don't think it functions very well. You're forcing people to get out of their car and walk across the drive aisle, and that can easily be flipped the opposite direction and prevent somebody from having to walk across the drive aisle. So I think there's some clear things that could easily be addressed to improve the site plan if this gets approved tonight for conditional use, and I completely understand if it does not, related to stormwater management on this site, which is critical. And to Alderman Sistrong's point, and I believe the city engineer addressed this, where she said, so our city infrastructure would be able to handle that. Doesn't mean that at all. It means that in the event when our city infrastructure is already can't handle that, this is not going to have any impact on that other than what we already have, unless this project were to go forward and it required them to upsize those downstream pipes to be able to get it to the outlet point. And I'm not sure if that's in the scheme of things or not. But is not, if our city infrastructure can't handle the flow that's there now, this project isn't going to make that magically better. With that, I yield.
Okay, well, at this point, I have no motion, so I need a motion for us to continue to do anything further. Do we have a motion for this project? Okay, seeing none, then board takes no action. All right, next we have under Mayor's Business, consideration of letter of engagement with the Government Resources and Services LLC in the matter of enlarging, extending, and defining the corporate limits and boundaries of the city of Starkville. And this is for a financial advisor as it relates to the court case that is pending as of June the 15th, I believe. So,
Mayor, I move approval.
I have a motion from Alderman Walker to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second from Alderman Beatty.
Let me ask, did you add to the amendment? I mean, did you add to the motion pending the June 15th date, or?
No, I was that was just informational, that's all.
Yeah, that was asked to me on a couple times going into this, is, for the city attorney, I guess, is how does that court case pending have any effect with this motion here?
Nothing, it just solidifies Demery Grubbs being an expert witness in the case on behalf of the city of Starkville.
Okay, thank you.
I have a motion and a second, further discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
Okay. By a vote of 4-3, motion carries. Ms. Harden, you got the proper number? Okay. All right, moving along, we next move to planning. We have a special event request under planning. Item A is for Unwind Downtown.
Move approval.
A motion from Alderman Walker. Do I have a second?
Second.
Alderman Carver, was that you? Thank you. Alderman Carver, further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
All right, by a vote of 5-2, motion carries. Second event, special event request is the Taco Hop for March the 5th. Do I have a motion?
Say move.
Alderman Carver, do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Alderman Little. Further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Okay, well, a vote of 5-2, motion carries. Third special event is the annual King Cotton Crawfish Boil.
Say move.
I have a motion from Alderman Carver. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Alderman Little. Further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
Vote of 5-2, motion carries. Special event of the Bud and Burgers.
Say move.
I have a motion from Alderman Carver. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Alderman Little. Further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
Motion carries 5-2. And last but not least, the special event request on behalf of the NAACP to hold the MLK Annual March on January
moved.
20th. I have a motion from Alderman Carver. I have a second.
Second.
Second from Alderman Beatty. And we have a, yes, City Attorney?
Board insurance has not yet been acquired by the applicant, but it is in the process of being acquired. And so I have a proposed motion. It would be move approval of the special events request for the 2020 MLK March with in-kind services on January 20th, 2020, conditioned upon insurance being provided with coverage consistent with the city's special events policy by noon on January 15, 2020. That gives them a 5-day cushion to get the insurance in before the event.
Alderman Carver, is that acceptable to you for your motion?
And it is, and not pertaining for this special event more than others. This was a 5-day, like Bulldog Bash, I know we had pretty lengthy discussion. Is it 21-day now? Or-
It's 20 per the policy.
I'm fine with that, so I'm sure they'll get it.
And Alderman, who was my second? Alderman Beatty, is that, okay, all right. So with that amendment, no further discussion. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
All right, by a vote of 5-2, motion carries. Thank you all. And gosh, I think last but not least, amazing, we have the claims docket. Do I have a motion?
Say move.
A motion from Alderman Carver. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Alderman Beatty. Further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
By a vote of 4 to 3, motion carries. All right, and that does take us to the end of our, what a nice way to start 2020. So before we adjourn, before I entertain a motion to adjourn, I need to call for the work session. And in accordance with the notices required under Mississippi Code annotated 254113, the board will be having a budget work session on the 17th of January 2020 at 10 a.m. That meeting will be held at City Hall in the second floor conference room located at 110 West Main Street. Public and media are invited to attend. Notice shall be provided of this work session within 1 hour of this meeting by posting such notice at City Hall. Notice for the work session shall be made a part of the minutes of the board meeting. The work session will be open public meeting of the City of Starkville, and the public and press are invited to attend. So, do I have a motion to did I say budget? I'm so sorry. I apologize. I think what budget's done, isn't it? Okay, it is a work session. I've got to change my language here. Do we have a motion to recess?
No, Mayor, we need a 5-minute recess. I need to talk to you about the planning and zoning issue.
Oh, okay. Can I have a motion for a 5-minute recess? Thank you. And second, somewhere? Second from Alderman Beatty. All those in favor? All right, we're in recess for 5 minutes, and here I was thinking we were gonna be done. Ron Wood. Our city attorney has called attention to the fact that we needed to take some sort of action on the item that we discussed but took no action on. And so that being the case, we are circling back to item number, where did it go? The public hearing for conditional use 19-11, the 3 proposed lots. So with that in mind, do we have a motion from Alderman Walker?
Mayor, I would like to propose that we table this request until our next meeting and give the applicant an opportunity to try to help us satisfy factor number 3, proper use of mitigated techniques by providing at least the preliminary stormwater calculations to give the board assurance that this would sufficiently address the flooding issues for the site.
Okay, all right. Clerk, do you have that? You got that? Okay. We'll, okay, we'll put that together. Let's see, table it until until the next meeting, so that the applicant can approve condition number 3, which is, proper mitigating techniques. All right, so I have a motion. Do I have a second to that motion?
Second.
Second from Alderman Vaughn. Further discussion? All right, all those in favor, please signify by saying, everyone understands the motion, right? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries. So we have tabled that until the next meeting.
And-
Dr. Kim is with us somewhere.
I would say they just need to make sure that that gets communicated.
Yes, we're gonna need to communicate that to the applicant. So, all right, thank you. All right, now, let's go back to the motion for recess. Do I have a motion to recess until, January the 21st?
So moved.
I have a motion from Alderman Sistrum. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Alderman Beatty. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you all. We are in recess.